Hello and welcome back everybody for another episode of Unplugged Live, the series where we have a chat to real people about either significant life changes that they've made in their lives or just how they incorporate various tools and practices in order to better support themselves but also live life to its fullest. Now today I am so excited to be joined by Ines, who is an intuitive eating coach. And Ines helps women end their love-hate relationship to both food and their bodies, to becoming a little bit more intuitive, taking small actionable steps to become a little bit more confident in how they make life choices, and to have a little bit more fun and enjoy really delicious food along the way. Now today we'll be touching on not only how Ines has had her life journey to get to this point and what it is that she has undergone in terms of her own life experience to get here. We'll also be touching on her skin condition, which is eczema, and how she now sees it as a blessing, which has led her to create and start this wonderful business in the first place. How a shift from the corporate world has led her now to become a digital nomad, and also how she has lived in more than 8 countries and how that has really shaped not only how she sees the world, but also how she views life and other people around her. So very excited to have Ines today, and I'm just going to invite her in now. Welcome guys if you've just joined.
Hello.
Wow.
Thank you for the introduction.
Ah, it's always funny, isn't it, when you hear someone else talk about you? You're like, oh, that's me.
I did all that, yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Good.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Sorry.
How are you going?
Ah,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited about this live. I feel very good and in a good mindset for the past week. So it's been great.
Awesome. Well, I love to always start these little chats with a bit of a check-in, and
Yeah.
that is with a sliding scale. So say 1 being where you're feeling like stressed, overwhelmed, completely flat. 10 where you're feeling absolutely amazing, on top of the world, super energized and motivated. Where do you reckon you're sitting today?
Right now, 9.5. I'm feeling really lit.
That's pretty good. I feel that's the first. I don't think we've ever had a 9.5 on Unplugged, so that's pretty good. Good going. Awesome, awesome. And I guess if you were to think about on an average over the past, I guess, 2 years or so, knowing that it's been incredibly challenging for many and not without its trials and tribulations, where do you reckon you've been sitting over the course of that time?
Definitely not 9.5.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think overall I've been feeling the lowest in my entire life for the past 2 years. I would say maybe 4.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'd love to, if you're open to sharing, I'd love to dive into that a little bit more and, what that experience of the past 2 years has been like.
Yeah, so actually 2 years ago, I decided to come to Australia. And so I got in right before COVID. And at that time, I was working on launching a group program. And it was all about helping women stay healthy on the road and while being like a nomad, because I just had become a nomad. And I was about to launch and COVID hit, and I was like, it doesn't make any sense. I was like not like linked to it anymore as much as I used to, because also I decided to live in an apartment and I was not per se like moving as much as I used to. And so I had to let go of that, and I didn't have like any income with my business. I was really struggling with money. My dad had to send me money, which felt really like not right. That being at the time I was 27, 28. And on top of that, not knowing a lot of people here. And I had the time to make a few friends, but then not being able to see them because of lockdown and like 5 kilometer radius, and not even being able to like, yeah. And I was living in an apartment with someone that I really respected, but like we didn't have a bond, and so I felt really, really lonely, and it was really hard. And I think that was like, yeah, one of the lowest, I can say the lowest point in my life, like mentally. That's when I really experienced like really hardship, because before that I was like, yeah, life is easy actually for me. Like I've been so fucking lucky so far. Like I've never had like those times of like, yeah, feeling really down. I'm a pretty like excited, like joyful person. But like COVID hit me hard, and like it was a combination of like the living situation, location wise, not network, but like, yeah, my collective here was not very strong, and my business as well. So it was just like everything was wobbly, and that's what led me to actually having the biggest like eczema flare up in my life. Eczema is like a skin rash condition, and it was just the worst. It was all over my body, and I was having symptoms of other imbalances. Like I was not sleeping well anymore, which I never had trouble with. I had some like infections in my body, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like everything is like out of whack. And I finally started piecing together that like mostly it was my stress. Like my stress was causing all of these issues. It was not just one thing that you could clear with just one medication. I'm not into like taking medications right away, because in the past I tried with my eczema, like going to dermatologist, and they would prescribe me like corticoid cream, and then it would go away, but then it would come back. And I was like, man, you're not curing the root cause of the problem here. Give me the solution. And then everybody's like, there is no solution for eczema. Like, we don't know what causes it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I don't take that as an answer. I'm going to go on a quest. If it takes my entire life, I'm going on that quest, but I'm figuring this shit out. Like, if nobody's telling me, I need to find a different route. And so that's what, yeah, led me to where I am today, and like better understanding my body and my mind connection.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just so much to unpack there, and I guess like as a beginning of a conversation, you know, and thank you for sharing so openly. You know, I think we learn so much from hearing stories of other people's experiences, and I've no doubt that anyone listening to this, whether live or later on, will resonate for sure with some of the elements that you've touched on. And I mean, over the past 2 years, and we've had a lot of conversations in this series, particularly about I guess how over that time so many of those usual support systems that we would have for our well-being had been taken away. You know, whether it's our mental health through like our social interactions and things that we might even take for granted, you know, getting outside in nature, being able to support ourselves. You know, you talked a little bit about sleep there. You know, it's been that full spectrum, a bit of a shake-up. And also, you know, you also touched on, which I can resonate with, is that notion of owning your own business and, you know, being a solo entrepreneur, and, you know, that very foundation or bedrock of security and stability, and, you know, that Maslow hierarchy of needs thing being shaken to its core. It's like, hang on a sec, there's a lot going on here.
I was at like I just realized actually like a few weeks ago that the reason why I was not growing my business the way I expected myself to do it by now, after doing it for like 3 years, was because I'd been in survival mode for like the past like 2-3 years. Like ever since I decided to launch my own business, I was like, fuck it, corporate, I'm not coming back. And then I just had that push and pull, like, but I need money, but this is what's crushing my soul. I don't want to do this, but I need the money. And so I've been going back and forth and like finding little gigs, freelancing, doing this and that. But at the end of the day, I was like keeping myself stuck, because I realized that I was constantly asking my question, but what do I need to be successful, like to grow my business the way I want? And I've only also figured that out just a few months ago, that some people, you know, you see them and they put themselves in a very tricky situation. They have no money, like they have a deadline, like, and they're thriving over this. And I was like, am I this type of person? I want to be this type of person. And because I was like, I'm living in that like scarcity right now, I should be motivated to take action. But then I realized that's not me. Like the way I work, and I think also most people work, is that when you're not survival need, you can't thrive. Like your own cup is not filled. Like your basic needs are not filled. And when you don't have that grounding, those foundations of like a steady location, which I didn't have when I decided to travel the world and do like that for 6 months, a backpack through South America. And it's just like when it's all lacking, you can't be in that space of thinking and be creative and like be at ease and at peace and be like, yeah, I know I got my ass covered. Like I have a roof, I have food, and I've got my friends. But like I put myself in a situation where I didn't have all this. And
Yeah.
And yeah, that's created a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I mean it's all about in that point, it's like, okay, how do I actually put just one foot in front of the other? It's not how am I thriving, it's okay, how do I actually just survive and get through this, really?
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear a lot more, about you and, who is Ines and what has been the journey to get you to this point. Obviously, as you mentioned, you weren't originally born in Australia. So yeah, I'd love if you could share a little bit more about, I guess, the formative years and how you got to this point.
Yeah. So I was thinking like what kind of type of words can like define me, and I would say I'm a joyful, healthy foodie, and that actually is like a name that I had for one of my past programs, and then a curious explorer, and that's like also how I'm calling now my clients. I'm like teaching them to become a curious explorer. I do that. I bring that curiosity in all aspects of my life. I want to learn. I'm like a lifelong learner, and that's like that resonates with what I share with the eczema. Like I'm on a quest. I'm curious. I'm gonna figure it out. Like there are answers out there. I just don't have them now, but I can find them. And so it's that curiosity that led me to travel and like go abroad, and like I've always had that desire to see what's out there. Can I like be introduced to new ways of thinking, of living, and not stay like in that rigid mindset, okay, I need to have a 9 to 5. It just never felt right inside of me. Like, and I've always, my parents, I guess, luckily pushed me to learn different languages, and so I was put in school where like English was like more prioritized than the regular like system in France, and then learning Spanish as well because my mom is Spanish, and I even learned Chinese as well. So when I finished my studies, like even through my studies, actually, I went to abroad in Edinburgh, in Scotland, sorry, and did an internship in New York. Then I did an exchange abroad in Hong Kong. Then after all that, I was like, okay, I need to practice my Spanish. So I went to Argentina, and that's where I started my corporate life as a marketer. And it's there after 3 months, I was like, man, that's not for me. Like, I don't want to live a life where I go to work, I'm stressed. Like, at first it was fine and nice and all this, but then like stress was piling up, and that's when my eczema started like to really appear and progress in different parts of my body, even on my face, on my eyelids. And it was just painful to just even open my eyes. Every time I would see myself in the mirror, I would see it. And like on my hands, it was like affecting, like every time I move my hand, you use your hands for everything. It's like every day, all the time, I could feel it. It was hurting. And I was very distressed, like being in a foreign country, didn't know, like I knew that going to a dermatologist would not solve the solution because I tried in France. And I was desperate, and I was looking for answers on the internet and looked for that on YouTube, and saw some people saying that eating plant-based was actually what helped them completely cure their eczema. And that's when I got curious. But at the time as well, I was very much in that diet mentality of like, and diet culture of like wanting to look a certain way, and I had put a little bit of weight. And I was just like hating what I was seeing in the mirror. Every day I would look at a big like long mirror, and I'd be like, oh, like I need to remove this, and I need to remove that, and I need to remove that. And so I set myself on a mission. Okay, I'm just gonna try to figure out what I need to do with my nutrition to to have that tone and skinny body that is my ideal at the time. Yeah. And so I actually researched and so about protein and like the importance of protein. And I was like, but how am I going to get protein out of eating plant-based? Like at the time I was eating mostly vegetarian, and I got so stressed out, and my number one focus at that time was my look instead of like my feel. I was younger. We all make mistakes, but I'm here to share my mistakes completely honestly, so that others don't make it and don't waste that time, their precious time on earth with that. And I actually went back to eating meat just because I was focused on like, I need to get protein. I was working out like crazy and I wanted to build muscle, and I was like, this is what's going to get me leaner. And my eczema, it was still like really bad. And then I moved to Canada, and there I was like, I'm going to do an experiment, just 1 month to committing to eating plant-based for myself, just see how I feel, how's my skin and everything. And I did it, and my skin like was completely healed, and I was feeling the best I've ever felt, like in terms of digestion and bloating and like all like good. And I was working out, and during that year in Canada I ate mostly plant-based all the time, because then once I experienced it, I realized, wow, actually it's like it was not that hard, like, and it's fucking delicious. Because as a French person, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm staying plant-based. Like I'm doing an experiment, but like I love my croissant, like I'm your typical French, and all the pastries, they all have butter and egg. I'm like, I can't say no to that. But as I cooked and like learned and like looked at recipes and stuff, it actually became a whole new world of like expensive, of like more options that I didn't even know were available before. I had like the most amazing dishes and tastes in my mouth thanks to that journey into plant-based eating. And then I was like, okay, I need to tell people like about this, like when we focus on adding instead of removing, like, okay, maybe add one plant-based meal this week and see how it feels, and like get connected to your body and see for yourself. Because people don't make a change out of me or like anyone telling them what to do. They make it on how they feel after trying it. And if they feel it's hard, they're gonna let go. If they feel good, but like, I want to feel good like that all the time, so they're just gonna be motivated to continue. And so that's how it all like started. And then I was like, I need to empower other women and other people with that, and that's how I started my Instagram. And through that journey, I still realized that I had a lot of problem and issues around like food, meaning like I would eat healthy most of the time, but then I would binge on like cakes and stuff like that when nobody was watching, or just like putting it on like, oh, I work out a lot, I can eat a lot, but like it was not feeling good in my body. Like I was definitely like binging, and I could not have the control over it. It was just like, I don't know, like I need to finish the whole thing. And it was not just once, it was like coming back again and again. And I was so ashamed that I would never talk about it. Like even my closest friends, like I've never talked about it with them. And that's when I was like, this is not okay. Like there must be a solution to that feeling. And that's when I found out about intuitive eating. And that's like a methodology that two dietitians have created to really rewire your brain and heal your relationship like deeply with your body and with food. Because we've all been conditioned by diet culture, unfortunately, and not just us, our parents. And our parents have had like the biggest influence on how we eat, because those formative years from like 0 to 7 years, like it's like when we absorb all their patterns and like what they tell us is good and bad, right? So I realized, oh my god, yes, like I've been wired this way without noticing it unconsciously, and food had the power over me. And so intuitive eating helped me take that power back. And when I did that work on myself, and I felt like the freedom of like, now I don't crave those foods like crazy anymore, because I created new tools in my life to deal with those emotions that were driving me to eat like that. But at the time I didn't even know it was the emotion. Like I just thought like, it is what it is, like it's just me, I'm like a binge eater, I don't know. But there is an explanation for everything. So it's just about bringing that curiosity, and that's what I am dedicated. And I think my mission is, now that I've realized that and achieved that for myself, to empower as many women as possible, especially self-employed women like me, to learn that, so that they can take care of themselves and know how to eat intuitively, how much to eat, when to eat, and what to eat, without having to rely on anybody else but their bodies. Because at the end of the day, your body is the best guide to tell you what to eat, because and what to do for anything, because you are the only you, and nobody can feel what you're feeling inside of you. So, and when it comes down to food, like, nobody knows if you're like full, or like if you're hungry, if you're satisfied, if food is like feeling good to you or not. Like, you're the only person to know that. So it's just about gaining those tools, which I do through my programs.
Awesome. It's so true, isn't it? You know, these bodies of ours, they're so intelligent, so much more intelligent than we give it credit for.
Yeah.
Always speaking to us, always giving us those messages, you know, even as you spoke about in the corporate world when you were super stressed and your eczema just flaring up, you know.
Yeah.
So many of us, what we do is just really push that down and kind of ignore it and just push
Yes.
through and say, oh, it's just something that's an inconvenience, that's a bit annoying. I'm just going to keep going the way I've always gone, and just, you know, as you said, maybe pop a few pills just to topically change it, or, you know, treat the symptom rather than get into that root cause. But it's such an interesting world when you actually dive in and you actually start listening to the body. There's so much to be gained from actually paying attention.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about there, you know, about body image, and how, you know, at the beginning of this journey of yours, you would look in the mirror and, you know, all you would do, you would be picking out the bad parts, or the parts that were negative, or that you wanted to change. Was this something that you would have had perhaps all the way through, you know, from your formative years up to that point? And how has that changed, that idea of body image, and how you see yourself, or what comes to mind when you look in the mirror? Or is that even something that you even think about anymore, you know, as you've moved through to this path of more intuitive eating?
Yeah, I think it came down from, like, I was a very skinny girl when I was a kid, and then, like, my mom, like, had to sign up my brothers for, like, model agency to, like, be in a commercial, like, of a dad friend anyway. And so she ended up putting me that agency as well. She's like, yeah, like, you can, like, we'll just put you there and see if, like, anybody wants to work with you. And so I ended up doing just like one big modeling gig, I guess, for like Adidas. And like from that moment, like, I was like in high school, and it was just before my body started to shift into like the body that I have today. And then I did like that big travel in Taiwan with my school and all this, and I gained like, I don't know, 5 kilo during like 2 weeks. And then I did another one in New York, and I gained like another 5 kilo. And then after that, they never seemed to like fall off again. And ever since that moment, I've been trying for like 10 years of my life to go back to the weight that I was. But I didn't realize that what happened was that I went from teenage to woman, and that my body had those changes, and that it was normal, because I was seeing in everywhere, in like movies, social media, magazines, like the bodies that are portrayed are like always the slim one. Plus, I didn't get any other gigs after that. And for me, I associated the fact that because I put on weight, I would never be casted again. And so that damaged me like very deeply. And I only made that connection a few years back. And that's all rooted from that place. And then going through intuitive eating and learning how to make peace with my body. It's like, I had this really like realization the other day, because I was in another house, because I'm doing house sittings and like changing houses all the time, and there was like a long mirror, and I hadn't seen myself in a long mirror in a long time, just with my underwear. And I was like, wow, like I don't even remember the last time I was in front of a mirror and like peeking on my body. Like, I don't even remember it. And I was like, how beautiful is that? Like, this is like so mentally freeing. to have all this mind space. Now I don't worry about this thing. Of course I have other worries in my life, but at least this is not part of my life anymore. And that means I have more time and I have more energy to put into other things that are actually helping me live the life that I want to live and that are empowering me. And for me, once that is dealt with, like, as well, like, when you are confident in your body, then you are more confident in any other aspects of your life. You, in the way you like just like even dress and like move yourself, your clients, the people on Instagram, right? Like anyone around you is gonna feel that confidence emanate, radiate from you. And that's inherently going to help your business as well, because as an entrepreneur, you need to be fucking confident in what you have to offer. You need to believe in yourself. Otherwise, if you don't, nobody's going to believe in you and nobody's going to buy from you. Like, that's for sure. So that's how I made like those links, and that feeling of like just lightness. I just want everyone to be able to achieve that. And it is like closer to what people think it is. It is possible. And I'm there, and with testimony, I've been in the freaking trenches for 10 years. And if I've done that for 10 years, like self-sabotaging myself, like self-judgment all the time, being like, honestly, the worst person to myself, like in my mind, and to being where I am today, I hope this inspires like as many women as possible to know that it is possible for you too. And I'm here to guide you to get there and to keep you there.
What a beautiful realization. I can just, visualize that moment in the mirror where the light bulb just went off and was like, hey, I haven't actually had a negative thing to say about my body, whereas in the past that would have been all that would have come up. And I know I'm definitely guilty of that, and I know many people who've been watching this will feel that really deeply. We all know that feeling of that vulnerability, when you are maybe down in your underwear and you're actually taking a good hard look at yourself and there's not really anywhere to hide, but how you maybe see yourself from the inside outwards, and how that can be such an important shift rather than the outside in all the time. I'd love you to talk a little bit more about, for those of who might be new to the concept, that idea of intuitive eating and what that means and how we might go about doing that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So intuitive eating is like actually not a new concept for people. They might know the name, but we were all born intuitive eaters, meaning when you were a baby, when you were crying when you were hungry, asking for food, and then you were stopping when you were full, right? There was no attachment to food and be like, no, I need to eat it, I can drink it all now because she won't give it to me later. No, there was nothing of that. And so being intuitive is just listening to your body and responding to its need, because your body is going to send you signals all the time, whether you're hungry, tired, like stressed. There are physical manifestation in your body. They're there for everyone. We're all the same. Now it's a matter of like tuning into it, being aware of it, noticing them. And my three step like method that I always share is like, the first one is to notice, right? So first of all, if you don't have like that practice of awareness, it's going to be hard. And for me, meditation played a huge role in me becoming an intuitive eater, because it helped me just be more aware of any like patterns in my life, and anything that I want to put my awareness on. Now it's like easier. And then it's about exploring with curiosity. And that's when I explored like my body. Okay, how does it feel when I overeat? Like, how does it impact me? Like, we don't tend to think about it, okay, but what are the consequences of me overeating right now, for example? Sorry. I might drink a little bit.
Your body's telling you need some water.
But when you're like overeating, for example, for me, I was like feeling lethargic for like good 2 hours, and I was just like a blob on the couch, and I was like, that's not the definition of me living my best life or me impacting as many lives as possible. But we tend to not like think about it, because it's not a nice feeling to like come to the realization like I'm wasting my life away through eating my emotions away and like binging. But I'm here to like bring the harsh truth, and like in a kind way, and in a way that is like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault if you don't have the tools to manage your emotion other than with food. Food is like one tool that we all know how to use. It's like, I like to use the analogy of like a toolbox. You have food as like the tape. Everybody knows how to use tape. Like, you don't need like a degree to use tape. If there is like something broken, you just put tape around it, it works. But is it like a good long-term solution? Like, you don't want to fix your entire house with tape. Like, it's gonna look shitty and it's gonna break down. So same with food. If you use food, it's gonna work for the short term. It's gonna give you that relief. But in the long term, you're not addressing the root cause of what that emotion, like where it came from. And so it's about just like learning new tools. That's all that it is with intuitive eating. I'm teaching you new tools, and I'm like making you actually put them into action and like experiment with it. I don't like to say habits, because habits is like, the brain doesn't like long-term like reward, like, oh, I need to do a habit for the rest of my life because that's my health, right? I need to eat healthy the rest of my life. And like, it's easier to say, I'm gonna do an experiment for next week, and I'm gonna, okay, next time I am having a craving, I'm just gonna be curious and use that first step of like noticing, like, let's be aware of it. Then if that is like reinforced, then you can start doing the second step, which is exploration and like understanding, okay, where does it come from? And then the third step of my process is to act and get you into action and start changing your life. But like yeah, more so like, that's like intuitive eating. I went in like many different ways, but it's just about listening to your body and to your signals, like learning how to do the listening, learning how to explore, and then testing out different tools, different experiments, and see what works for you. Because as like diet culture says, there is like one size fits all. They give you like a diet and like, yeah, it's gonna work for you, and it's gonna work for your best friend, and it's gonna work for your mom. No, it's like, we've seen it doesn't work. There is no double of you. Like, there is just you. You're unique, and so you need unique tools for you, and whether that's for your business strategy or for your health, it's the same.
Yeah. So true. So true. And I mean, I think there's a lot of crossover with that idea of intuitive eating and your 3-step process, I guess, with mindfulness as well, and just bringing a little bit more awareness and that, I guess, attitude of curiosity, but also kindness, not beating yourself up the whole time because, you know, maybe the way that you've been hasn't been as, you know, the way that you might have liked it to have been, or maybe you have these realizations that maybe you haven't been so kind to yourself, but doing that in a really kind way and an open way, curious way, you know, and that it's only with awareness. I always say that, you know, we gain choice, and if we're not aware of things, then things will always remain as they've always been. So that's a really, really great, it sounds like a wonderful like 3-step phase or journey to go on and to really dive in. And it's an area that I think a lot of us just don't really think about, you know, and you do go away and go about your life the way you've always kind of gone. But so interesting.
The thing is that the brain cannot be curious and judgmental at the same time, and that's like my whole like mojo in my business is like, eat curiously. And so when you tend to like feel judgmental about like your body or the food that you've just eaten, it's normal. Like, it's a pattern. You've just reinforced that pattern so many times. It's just, you feel it's part of you, but it's not. It's just a pattern. You can you can start shifting it. And so just bringing curiosity, like next time you're judgmental, just be curious about why you're judgmental. Where did that judgment started from? Like, what was the first time, when was the first time when you felt judgmental about like a food that you ate? Like, I can remember vividly times in my life when I was a kid eating like a shit ton of like brioche with Nutella, and I didn't freaking care. I was not judgmental about myself. Like, it didn't start there, right? But at some point in my life, something changed. And so by bringing the curiosity, know that, and that's like my main, like the main takeaway that all my clients get is that I rewire their brain so that the judgment is like left out, because every time I'm forcing them to be curious. Okay, let's be curious. Let's be curious. There is no good or bad. There's just what it is. Let's just be curious. If it's not the outcome that you want, let's be curious as to why it didn't work, for example, this week for your experiment. There is a reason for it, and you will not find the answer in being judgmental by yourself. This is not going to lead you to the answer. So I want you to like if someone like wants to just remember one thing, just be curious. Like remember, like being curious, you can't be judgmental at the same time. So easy.
So true. So true. Wise words, Ines. Wise words. It's so interesting just to open up that can of worms, and I think it's something that's inherently deep within all of us. You know, as you said, as something that really stuck with me, what you said earlier was that idea of how we're born, you know, as babies, and intuitively we do know when we're hungry, when we cry, and we do know when we're full and we stop. But somewhere along the way that changed. And all about really diving into what was that, you know, but also not necessarily always needing the answer for where it came from, but more understanding the how it's impacted us and how it is that we can maybe make a few shifts to change things for the better. So super interesting. I feel like I could talk to you on this topic forever, but I am aware of time, and for you giving so generously donating your time to talk a little bit about this today. But I'd love to like just to share, I guess, with anyone who might be listening or who might be watching this a little bit later on, how it is that they can find you if they want to learn more or ask questions. I'm sure lots of things maybe have arisen for, as you said, we're also very different. So for people in their own experiences, if they did want to find out more about what it is that you do or learn more about you or ask questions, how can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. So it's simple, just on my Instagram at Ines_Schubi, SCHUBI. And that's my main platform. That's where I share all my content, and I'm giving tips and tricks on starting to like think about those topic around like body image and the way you eat in a way that gets to like your brain moving in the right direction. And then if you feel like you need more support and guidance to get you to a point where you love yourself and you're at peace with food, then I created Nourishing Circle, and that's a guided community experience where I help women with the tool, the resources, and the guidance to become an intuitive eater, so that then they can continue being an intuitive eater on their own. Like my goal is not for them to rely on me, because this is the point of intuitive eating. It's just about teaching them how to listen to their body and take care of their body overall, especially as self-employed women, as it can be hard to juggle your business and your health, but remembering that your business starts with you and how good you feel in your body. And when you have this strong foundation, right, just like I needed strong foundation to like start to thrive as well. When you have this foundation of feeling amazing in your body, at peace with who you are and confident in your body, then you can expand, and then you can really like grow your reach and your impact with your business. So that's what it is.
Awesome. Thank you. And a final question before we go. I always love to ask any of our guests on, if you have one ask from us or something that we can, you know, be of service to you in some way, what might that be?
Just share one of the posts from my Instagram. If you go through my Instagram, like you find something very valuable, share it with a friend. Share with a friend that you know might be struggling with it. Maybe she hasn't like told you about it, but it might spark a conversation, and you might like find like a connection with your friend where you can then talk about this, because it's really important to start this conversation if we want things to change, because you can't change your circumstances from the oh, I forgot the quote now, like, but like you can't change from like just keeping yourself stuck in your own mind, because your mind is going to repeat the same pattern and thoughts that you have. So you need to start expanding, and like by hearing just people talk about it, and that brings you idea. Like you come in here today, you're like being exposed to a new way of thinking around food. And so that's why I think it's so important to do that together as a community, and that's why I built Nourishing Circle, because you learn so much from each other. So just share one post with one friend, or as many friends as you want, that you feel like it's gonna benefit, and then start a conversation.
Beautiful. I think a very important conversation, that's for sure, and one that we could all benefit from having more of. I know that would have definitely helped me in my own journey growing up if those conversations were had more often. So yeah, I think, as you said, be that change that you want to see for sure. So again, I could have talked to you all day about
Me too.
this. I'm so interested in the topic, and I know that we'll definitely catch up face to face sometime soon. But
Yes.
I wanted to just end by saying, showing my appreciation and saying a huge thank you for spending some time with us and sharing a bit more about your journey and all that you do. Wonderful, really impactful and meaningful and needed work that's out there in the world. So thank you for all that you do and all that you share. And yeah, wishing you a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Ash. I really appreciate your time and sharing with me here this space to broaden my impact so that more women feel empowered. So thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you in person too.
Sometime very soon,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
All right.
Thanks, Ines.
Bye.
Bye.